Do you remember the time when everything was pure and simple? We spent hours and hours on the beach playing, building sandcastles under the sun. As we grew up, the whole world became our playground. Complex, beautiful, and busy. A world full of opportunities waiting for us right outside the window. When an architect gets together with a structural engineer to shape the world, we ultimately search for meaning and foresee the future. Our dreams might be big and bold, challenging, competitive, or ambitious. But with the right tools, we can make anything happen, and we achieve any goal. SCIA is taking the lead in revolutionizing BIM for engineers. We allow them to step into the future and let them collaborate. Because now, we enable BIM for any solution and any type of workflow. Let's build the future together and create a beautiful world. SCIA, enabling BIM for any solution and any type of workflow.
Sia Auto Converter, the structural modelling to analysis workflow game changer. For structural engineers, re-entering data manually to generate an analysis model is a frustrating and inefficient part of many projects. Managing the risk of errors from exchange of data from different systems can be stressful and time-consuming. Workflow is often disjointed, inefficient and lacking control. With Sia Auto Converter, structural modelling and structural analysis are truly connected through Open BIM, enabling collaboration between all disciplines, with analysis truly brought into the BIM process for the first time. With Sia Auto Converter, the need for remodelling is eliminated, saving many hours, even days on larger projects. The solution maximises data reuse and minimises manual handling across the entire process, greatly reducing the risk of errors. Files from any structural modelling software can be processed in Sia Auto Converter. Analysis files can then be published back into a collaborative environment for review. Changes are managed and controlled. When changes are made to the analysis model, modelers receive a task to update their model. When changes are made to the structural model, the analysis model updates automatically, with the integrity of data preserved throughout. In short, Sia Auto Converter revolutionises the structural engineering process. We have developed software that is not just a step forward, but a giant leap across the collaboration gap. We are elevating the Open BIM process for engineers to the next level. Believe us, this is a game changer. Sia Auto Converter. True automation, from structural to analysis model.
Do you remember the time when everything was pure and simple? We spent hours and hours on the beach playing, building sandcastles under the sun. As we grew up, the whole world became our playground. Complex, beautiful, and busy. A world full of opportunities waiting for us right outside the window. When an architect gets together with a structural engineer to shape the world, we ultimately search for meaning and foresee the future. Our dreams might be big and bold, challenging, competitive, or ambitious. But with the right tools, we can make anything happen, and we achieve any goal. Sia is taking the lead in revolutionizing BIM for engineers. We allow them to step into the future and let them collaborate. Because now, we enable BIM for any solution and any type of workflow. Let's build the future together and create a beautiful world. Sia, enabling BIM for any solution and any type of workflow. Sia Engineer 21. Super powered, super easy. Sia Engineer 21 has been redefined, reimagined, and revolutionized. It's a giant leap in structural engineering software design. Let's have a look at some of the extraordinary advances. Rather than having fixed menus crammed with hundreds of functions, the project takes center stage with a search facility and customizable toolbars, keeping the workspace clean and uncluttered, bringing huge efficiency gains. Mouse miles and clicks are reduced by 20%, saving you up to an hour every single day. You'll love working at full screen. You can concentrate on the model and see the detail with less zooming. You'll see your productivity soar. Sia Spotlight is a game-changing innovation that puts a smart search facility at the heart of the interface. Find tools and functions instantly and never get lost in the software, making it easier to use and learn. It's so much faster to use Sia Spotlight than to browse through menus. The structural engineering workflow is often not a linear one. Our Smart Process Toolbar allows you to have 2 workflow toolbars open at any one time and move seamlessly between the two. For example, results plus code checks or loading plus geometry.
It's ideal for an iterative process. The interface can be easily customized to suit the way you work as you go. You can drag and drop functions on and off the toolbar and assign single-letter shortcuts for favorite commands, giving your productivity an even greater boost. SCIA Engineer 21 allows for easy, direct selection of entities based on multiple criteria. It's a great time-saving feature. For example, to select beams and edit all the associated hinges, you can now easily do that and more. Getting started with SCIA Engineer 21 has never been easier. You'll quickly find your way around with the new intuitive interface, smart toolbars, SCIA Spotlight and built-in guides. You'll learn it in 75% less time. Welcome to the future. SCIA Engineer 21. Super powered, super easy.
Welcome! I'm excited to open our SCIA Industry Conference today, and I hope you're looking forward to seeing our new SCIA Engineer release and our Sia Auto Converter. SCIA has been around for 47 years now, and innovation has always been at the heart of what we do at SCIA. We're continuously innovating in all possible ways, which also means in the area of ease of use and ease of learning, without compromising the endless possibilities of our solutions. These endless possibilities also bring about a level of complexity because of all the features and functions you have at your disposal. And today, I am very proud to present to you SCIA Engineer 21, because it introduces a giant leap in structural engineering software design. We do this through a revolutionary new interface with leading-edge ergonomics, on-demand customization, and unequaled efficiency gains. How did we get here, you wonder? Well, we got here together with our customers. When we started working on this release 3 years ago, we took a good look at the changes our customers have been going through throughout the years. First of all, there's the hardware we're working on. This has changed drastically over time. Remember when we all had a huge box under our desks and a small, but actually a giant screen on our desks? Well, look at us now, all with a laptop that we can easily move around with us and work from wherever we want. And you may say that you will never use a mobile device to do your work. Still, if you think that we're all consumers at home with a smartphone and a tablet and probably some connected wearables, it's hard to imagine this will not impact the expectations and the needs of our products in the future. And it is not only the hardware that has changed. The software has changed with it. It has moved into small, easy-to-use apps that serve a specific purpose, one app at a time, and synced between your laptop, tablet, smartphone, and your wearables. This has an even more significant impact on our users' expectations, because we have gone from working on a computer at our desk to get anything done to living with a smartphone from morning till evening, integrated into everything we do in life. These changes have a drastic impact on how we see the world and what we expect from it. And as a consequence, they have a powerful effect on our expectations from the software we need to use day in, day out to get the job done. So how do we address these challenges at SCIA? Through innovation, of course. We have innovated SCIA Engineer's interface into a revolutionary new interface that works in perfect harmony with the structural engineers. We've accomplished fewer mouse clicks on almost every task. And with SCIA Spotlight, you instantly find the tools and functions you need. This means more time to spend on actual engineering and other things you enjoy. It's just much faster, easier, and more fun to use. As simple as that. I am talking about a total workspace transformation, providing you with maximum screen use with the project taking center stage. No more cluttered menus, just clean ergonomic toolbars with the essential functions you use day in, day out at your fingertips. This will allow you to achieve maximum productivity advantage through on-demand customization of your SCIA Engineer workspace. Bring the tools you use most to the front and hide the ones you don't to the back. It is your workspace now. I am very excited about this new release, as you can tell, and I am sure that you will be too. Please, let us know your feedback after you've learned more about our redefined, reimagined, and revolutionized SCIA Engineer 21. Thank you. Enjoy the conference and welcome to the future. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the future from our SCIA studio. I am honored and very excited to be your host today at the SCIA Industry Conference 2021. First and most importantly, I hope you're doing well. We would have loved nothing more than to be face-to-face with you today, but COVID still has us under its spell. Not to worry though, because we have our presentations pre-recorded. And here in the studio with me will be the presenters after the presentation to answer all your questions. You can put your questions in the chat window. And then after the presentation, here in the studio, we will have an interactive panel discussion to talk about them. SCIA Engineer 21. That's what this conference is mostly about. As I already talked about in my presentation, innovation and leadership is really in SCIA's DNA. And always with the user in mind. A few examples is Sia was one of the first to develop FEM calculations on a workstation, affordable to everyone. We were also pioneering in the development of Eurocodes and steel connections. Sia introduced BIM integration in structural engineering, and we are still the only one in the world who has IFC certification for both import as well as export. Last year, we took this to the next level with the introduction of Sia Auto Converter, an innovative online tool that allows the structural engineer to be fully integrated into the BIM workflow. These are only some of the innovations that we have brought to market over the years. And I dare say that this new version of SCIA Engineer is really honoring our position as the most important developer of structural engineering software in Europe. So let's get started by clarifying to you why this version is so important and give you some background on how we approached V21, how your contributions actually came in, and what the future looks like. My colleague Anna van Aarden is lead of the UX UI design team, and she will take you behind the scenes. During the presentation, you can ask your questions in the chat window because Anna will be joining me here in the studio to answer all of them. Anna, the stage is yours.
Easy Team was formed over 3 years ago as the User Experience Task Force, our main goal being making SCIA Engineer, well, easy to use. Now, simplifying things in a software like SCIA Engineer is not that simple. So, we approached this task from different angles to identify improvement areas. We conducted user interviews using a jobs to be done lens. What this means is that we looked at SCIA Engineer as means to an end and explored the end goal itself, the functional, emotional, and social circumstance of getting a job done. This gave us a clearer picture, not just of what we needed to achieve in the context of SCIA Engineer, but also as an engineering tool in general. We further identified the potential to leapfrog, meaning that we would not attempt catching up with what competition does better, but think outside of the box and aim at surpassing what the current market has to offer and do something even more innovative. Easy Project was a lean startup project which means that we invested far more time into exploration, prototyping, design iterations, talking to users at different stages in the design, then into production. This allowed us to be more flexible, push for perfection, and get your feedback at different stages in the process. We explored improvement points and identified priorities as being easy access, finding things in SCIA Engineer, flexibility, making SCIA Engineer work for you, and input to establish a good foundation that we can build even better workflows upon in future releases. So, what have we learned and how did we address our findings in our designs? First of all, we observed that things are hard to find in SCIA Engineer. SCIA Engineer is a powerful yet complex software, which resulted in a very complex yet cluttered user interface where things are just hard to find, and working in a small 3D scene window is hard. Our solution to this was to maximize the workspace and to allow all of its components to be minimized or maximized. In other words, we created an on-demand user interface. We also learned that SCIA Engineer performs several individual functions and that engineers hop from one of these jobs to another many times in an iterative way. We also later found out that our customers reiterate sometimes even more than they think. As a result, we devised the Workstations Concept that would take the user through different stages of work, like the service tree used to, but with the flexibility of easily hopping from one workstation to another, and even running two of them at the same time, structure and loads, for example, by having two toolbars up simultaneously. We also explored what our customer used the most and what is hardly ever used, applying the so-called 80-20 rule. We identified what is used 80% of the time, which is typically a tiny portion of what SCIA Engineer has to offer, and made it the most accessible, while we allowed those items that are rarely used to be more tucked away. By applying progressive disclosure principles, we simplified SCIA Engineer for the daily use, made it more accessible to the new users, while retaining its expert features. The process toolbar, for example, only features a handful of tools, those used most of the time, while the SCIA Engineer menu allows access to all possible tools. Following the same design principle, that properties palette can show you only the basic set of properties or the full detailed set. It's up to you. Our perhaps most interesting finding was that no engineers use SCIA Engineer in the same way. All engineers are different and all projects are different, so one solution fits all does not exist. This is why in SCIA Engineer 21, you can customize nearly everything. With great change comes great frustration, and our exploration confirmed that. No matter how much better the user interface is or how great our features are, the fact is that we have taken something that our users are used to and changed it. We understood that users need a safety net. So, we embarked on an ambitious task to create a place where everything would be discoverable and no command is left unfound, the SCIA Spotlight. Unlike the former command line, Spotlight searches SCIA Engineer for any term and gives you the short list of relevant items. It can show you where you can find your item in the menu or execute the command right there and then. Should the search term not be available within SCIA Engineer, Spotlight will take you to Web Help to further assist you in your search. We also learned that learning how to work in SCIA Engineer can be somewhat of a journey, and we wanted to make this experience as easy as possible for the 2021 release, for current and future users alike. A good onboarding goes a long way, and this is no exception. So we created in-software onboarding mini-trainings that will take you around the new user interface through simple workflows that you can learn and explore by doing. Lastly, SCIA Engineer has now a new, more modern look. The color scheme has better ergonomic against eye fatigue. New icons are larger, better defined, and the design language is more homogeneous. To support the users in this visual language change, our new tooltip system provides all the necessary info on each item for the extra help. SCIA Engineer 21 is new, fresh, and improved. It is a big leap forward for ease of use. However, change is painful. It means retraining one's habits, muscle memory, reconstructing workflows, and it is not easy to overcome. We're aware of that, which is why we have created several features to make this transition easier. However, our aversion to change is a steep curve that tends to dramatically diminish after the first week of using a new product. The process becomes easier and more fun as new habits are created, which gives you the right mindset to enjoy the new user experience to the fullest. I'd like to close by saying we are just getting started. We have a clean slate to build new experiences upon. We're excited to give SCIA Engineer 21 over to you and to hear what you have to say, share your experiences with us, and to drive new improvements together. The design team would like to thank you all because without your input and feedback, none of this would have been possible.
Thank you, Anna. Now, before we go and start answering some questions, let's hear what our own team at SCIA has to say about the new release. It means like a dream come true for me.
It's a completely new version of SCIA Engineer.
It offers something that nobody else is doing.
It's amazing.
Avec SCIA Engineer 21, il y aura un énorme gain de temps.
Es wird alles einfacher, schneller, intuitiver.
Un développement très important.
Ik denk dat onze klanten wel verrast gaan zijn. The potential to increase your efficiency is enormous.
C'est l'interface qui va s'adapter à l'utilisateur.
La liberté complète de modifier son flux de travail et l'adapter à son besoin pour optimiser son travail.
V21 to me personally means clean.
Ik denk de voornaamste ervaring zal zijn dat het gebruiksgemak er een heel stuk zal op vooruit gaan.
You are gaining a lot of time because you need less clicking.
Very nice to see. It's nice in coloring, in how it's designed.
De leercurve is zeer gemakkelijk.
We've seen a lot of reactions and it's always a joy to see people going ooh and ah.
J'aimerais que nos clients aient la même expérience qu'on a eue quand on a testé cette nouvelle version et qu'ils en tirent tous les bénéfices que l'on croit qu'ils vont pouvoir tirer.
I want them to feel how easy it can be.
Having real fun in their job, enjoying, being delighted by the interface.
And just like feel excited about it.
I'm super excited as well.
It really differentiates us from all the other software on the market.
It creates a foundation for new things to come.
Pour moi, V21 en un seul mot, c'est
intuitif,
vitesse,
bouleversement de votre quotidien,
personnalisation complète.
simple,
Phenomenal.
A revolutionary development.
The version 21 is just the beginning.
Welcome to the future of structural engineering software. Welcome to the studio, Anna.
Thank you, Hilde. It's good to be here.
That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
So we saw not that many questions come in yet, but we did get some questions sent in ahead of time. So I'll start with that. So first of all, why do you believe that people should use the new user interface rather than the old one?
Well, it's new and it's better, first of all. There's two aspects to it. It's a pleasant experience. It's cleaner, it's tidier. We have enhanced some workflows, but most of all, we have worked on this entire project with users, like very tightly with the user groups, with engineers, and we have really analyzed how SCIA Engineer is used, what jobs need to be done, what happens on a daily basis. And this release is really targeted at what an engineer needs to do. Yeah. So it will be faster, and it'll be a more pleasant experience. So.
All right. And can you give us an example of how V21 accelerates the engineer's work, since you're saying it's faster?
I'll give my favorite, which is the Workstations concept. What happens in the 21 release is that we have removed the service tree, or replaced it, let's say, with the Workstations concept, with a process toolbar that takes you through the main work moments in a project. However, unlike the service tree, which also gave you structure and guided you through a project, is not rigid. It is flexible. The workstations are flexible, and they allow you to still go through modeling, loading, etc., but they also can be run at the same time, which service tree did not allow. Because we learned that engineers iterate a lot, and that there is a lot of benefit in having, say, modeling, like input things and loads at the same time, and sort of working with those tools at the same time, or, for example, loading the structure and checking the results really quickly. So the possibility to run different tools at the same time that you could not do in the past, or to run different areas of SCIA that you could not run together in the past, will be very, very beneficial, because you simply don't have to switch so much back and forth. So that is my favorite feature, let's say. Very proud of it, yeah.
That sounds like a great feature. So we also have a couple of questions that I see here. Does it mean that some functions or designs disappear, given that you just said, you know, some of these things have been swapped?
Yes, no, absolutely. They don't disappear. We have a principle when we design that we have to retain everything that SCIA Engineer used to do. We have to bring that in, because there is no use in creating a great new interface and just dropping a bunch of features that people are using. So unless something is absolutely outdated, investigated, nobody's using it, and which is like a cleanup job, let's say, tools, features, everything that old SCIA Engineer used to do, new SCIA Engineer does. We made sure of that.
That's great. That's great. I also see here, is there a retro compatibility with the previous version?
Yes, in the sense that you can open any project, any older project, in new SCIA and in new SCIA Engineer, and use it as you would. So it's fully compatible. I think that's what they mean.
Yes, yes, I think so too. Have any adjustments been made to the protocol? Is the display of formulas now also possible for IBC code? That maybe...
This is a better question for Nele. I think she might be able to answer that.
Yes, I was wondering about that too. I have some more questions here as well, which we could address. When designing V21, what was your main focus?
Well, as I said, it was the users, and it was what jobs SCIA Engineer needs to do. Now, there is a lot going on in SCIA. It's a very complex software, so we did have to prioritize in terms of where we're going to put our focus on. And we have decided to work on good basics in this release, which means that not only we offer like a cleaner product, a product where information is re-architectured, where everything is a lot more accessible than it used to be, that is decluttered in the sense that tools, objects that are very rarely used are a little bit out of your way so that you can focus on what you need to do on a daily basis. So it is really like establishing good basics and a good clean slate to work on better workflows, new enhancements. So our focus was really in that department, in finding things, discovering things, having a clean new interface, having a faster interface, and setting up a good base for the future.
All right. And I heard you say, so some of these features that you may not use too much are out of your way, but with the Sia Spotlight, you can always find
Absolutely.
them, right?
That is something, well, it's really hard to pick one of the features as the one, because I think that we've done a lot, and I'm enjoying a lot of these features myself. And besides the workstations, I think Spotlight is an absolute hit, because we did uncover that things used to be hard to find in Sia, and the way to bridge that, the way to overcome that is indeed the Sia Spotlight, where you can enter any, it really functions like Google. You enter whatever and you get a list of top hits, and you can not only find out where that feature is in Sia, in case like you want to go back to it, or you want to drag it into the process toolbar, like you want to customize your toolbars, but you can also execute it right there and then. And I think from what we've seen with users so far, what we've tested, Spotlight is a big favorite, and I find that it is actually used a lot more than we thought it would. It is, because it's so modern, and sometimes we think like, oh, take it easy on the very kind of modern, like very advanced, very kind of like cool user experience things, and we don't have to. People are loving it. So
yeah, I can imagine. Any other questions? Is it possible to bring up the old interface?
It is possible to switch back and forth.
But bringing it up, I think the question was bring it up within the new user interface. That's not feasible, I think. Huh?
No, not really. But you will see that there in the new interface, there's still a lot of the old interface. There's a lot that we're still working on, and that there's a lot of work at hand. But it is an either-or situation, where you can. We find that it's important to make that switch to the new interface when you're comfortable. So maybe not today, but like when you have an easy day at work and you have like 15 minutes to play around, and you can switch back if that is what you want to do. Not sure why, but there we are. There we are. But no, you cannot run them in parallel. It's just not something you can do.
Yeah. And I think the users will find that if you work with it, a couple minutes, or you just spend a day working with it, you won't want to go back. So
yeah, no.
All right. Well, we're rounding off because otherwise we're running out of time.
Indeed.
So I think we're going to take care of the other questions that aren't answered yet later, and then move on to the next section. Thank you, Anna, for being here and for your answers.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So where the user used to have to adapt to the software, that is no longer the case. It's actually so that today the user expects that the software is, immediately accessible and it immediately can be used. There's also often no time to really invest in in-depth training. And that has brought V21 about, really. So from the slogan super powered, super easy, we're going to focus on the super easy part here. We're all very enthusiastic about the new user interface, and we are convinced that once you have tried it out, you will not want to go back. The advantages speak for themselves, and Nele Dekkers, our Director Product and Design, will tell you more about it in the next presentation. But before we go there, she will have a chat with Vladimir Pribamsky, the product owner of the user experience team. Let's have a look.
Welcome, everyone. Today I'm having an interview with Vladimir Pribamsky, the product owner responsible for the new interface project within Sia. Welcome, Vladja.
Hi, Nele.
Hi. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and about your role inside the program in Sia?
Certainly. First, let me tell you that the SCIA Engineer 21 is not only about the current version 21, but the development spent over past 3 years. So I joined the team developing the new environment as product manager back in the early stages of the development. Back then, we were investigating conceptual designs with UX designers, as well with internal experts and some of our key accounts. The UX stands for user experience, and in the early stage, we actually observed the customers and users, what they are doing with SCIA Engineer, to see patterns, bottlenecks in their workflow, and we also defined some prototypes that we were showing them back. In the first builds, you were not able to open a project or work at all, as the development focused on behaviors rather than features, but it got more concrete shape over time. We started also regular consultation with our users approximately 2 years ago with a group we call SCIA Insiders.
Oh, and those insiders, we called it the insider program internally, I think. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course, the Insider program was nothing new to SCIA. Actually, it was running for quite some years, but it was mostly used to send like quarterly surveys, and also the engagement level were very low. I saw the need to start showing the project in progress to our users, and that's what we did. With Insiders, we were having one-on-one meetings that were online, of course, to discuss the features and find pain points even in the early stage of the development. I have to admit, in the beginning, it was maybe not as fun as they would expect it, because without opening a project, it was challenging to see if we are actually going in the right direction. But indeed, we did quite some of the usability tests, and they took time, lots of time actually. And over time, it became better. And in past 6 months, we were also able to launch the beta program, and more than 70 selected external engineers from across Europe had the opportunity to try out the beta, and we received great amount of feedback, both positive reactions and also hundreds of suggestions for improvement. Luckily, most of the suggestions for improvements were often duplicate, because many people see the similar things in a similar way, but this actually verified and showed us the way. And I was happy that for most positive attitude to guide us throughout this beta program, and I think that the pain points that we investigated, we were able to fix till now.
Great, it sounds great. And if you look back now at the project, what was your biggest challenge of the project?
For me personally, certainly the communications, because with so many stakeholders, it was challenging to ensure parties are heard and happy. We had the most diverse project to develop the new interface in my career, and it combined actually fields like researchers, the UX designers, which are basically artists, the technology, and of course diverse users from many different countries and also different engineering backgrounds. The research was needed to keep us on track and to get a usable product in the end. The interface designers are artists, of course, and their passions and views is not always understood by the developers. And that was the challenge. For me, I was actually in neither of these groups, and I felt as a martyr to keep the team working together and focused.
And if you now look at the project that we're going to release, what's your personal favorite part of the new user interface?
For me, it is SCIA Spotlight. It's hard to imagine that this was actually one of the first components that we built as a prototype, and I still see some potential there. Yet I think it's a great tool for anything, to edit the configuration as you go. I think this is also a very important topic linked with SCIA Spotlight. And I quickly learned to use single letter hotkeys, which might be assigned also in SCIA Spotlight. So the SCIA Spotlight is helping me when I'm lost, and also makes my work very productive when I'm doing some modeling or investigation.
And with the release now of version 21, what would be your message to the attendees of this conference?
The message would be that the new environment is entirely different from the old one, but don't be afraid. I hope that you all will be able to find its beauties, for example, in the entirely new set of icons and the overall design of the components. I also wish everyone to realize that they might indeed work faster and be more productive in the new environment than in any other structural engineering software. It is not only about the look and feel, but we took also great care about the efficiency.
And Vladja, if you would describe SCIA Engineer version 21 in one word, what would it be?
One word. Yeah, that would be a revolution, I think.
And now the last question. We're going to release version 21. What will you do next?
First, actually getting the version done felt like running a marathon, a long one. And what would a marathon runner do after finishing his run? I think many people involved worked many months without any holiday, and now it's actually time to stretch the legs and to slow down, but just for a little while. After all, this is just the beginning.
Thanks a lot, Vladja. Thanks a lot for all the hard work for this interview, and of course for the great version 21 that we're going to release, and also thanks a lot to the whole team who worked on it.
Our pleasure.
And now, let's go back to the studio.
Thank you, Vladja. Nele will walk you through the capabilities of SCIA Engineer 21, and please continue to put your questions in the chat window. I've seen that there are a lot of questions coming in. Well, what I want to say is that we will answer all of them. I know that we can't answer them all here in the studio, but we will take care of answering them. Nele will join me here later in the studio after her presentation. Go ahead, Nele.
Welcome. Welcome on a moment I've been looking forward to for the last 3 years. It doesn't happen often in your life that you can be part of something revolutionary. So I am very proud to be here today to present our new release, SCIA Engineer version 21. This new version slogan is super powered, super easy. Superpowered is referring to all the power inside SCIA Engineer. Within SCIA, we are developing software for over 40 years, which results into all the possibilities we have today. All the functionalities you know from previous versions are still available in this version. So with this new version, you will not lose functionalities or possibilities to calculate special structures. On the contrary, everything becomes easier in this version 21, because our slogan is super powered, super easy. Super easy. And this was the main goal of SCIA Engineer version 21, and also the reason why SCIA Engineer version 21 stands out from all the previous versions of our program. A version where ease of use prevails, where efficiency takes over, and where the software becomes a pleasure to work with. So welcome to this next generation of SCIA Engineer. Especially for this version, for the first time in SCIA's history, we have started to work with a design team, a team specialized in usability and software design. The first thing you will notice is the beautiful new design of SCIA Engineer. This has not been developed by engineers, but by a brand new design team within our company. However, this team has two specialties, UX and UI. UI here stands for the user interface and thus refers to this beautiful design. But maybe you will think UX is even more important because it stands for the ease of use of our software. And our design team has done everything under the hood to see how we can make the software easy to use. And now the results of all this hard work, which I will try to summarize in 3 main pillars. The first pillar is unequaled efficiency. The second one, leading edge ergonomics. And last, but certainly not least, on-demand customization. Let me start with unequaled efficiency. I think most people who are familiar with our older versions will agree that it was not always easy to find a function to input or to change or to execute something in Sia Engineer. Increasing this ease of use and efficiency was one of the goals of this new interface, and the design team has saved no effort to investigate and afterwards improve this in all areas. The new user interface of Sia Engineer works perfectly in harmony with what you as an engineer needs. This results in less mouse clicks for every task you do, and therefore more time to spend on the real engineering work. We also took a closer look at the mouse miles. First of all, what are mouse miles? Mouse miles are the distance your mouse travels on the screen, so if all the menus are spread out in an inefficient way, your mouse travels a long distance, so many miles. A high number of mouse miles means in general a loss of time, but also difficult to find features, as you often go up and down while searching, so in general a loss in efficiency. And this efficiency can be expressed both in time gain as in pixels. And as you can see here, we reduced our mouse miles by 1.4 times when we start modeling, or 1.7 times when we start searching features you use less. The biggest gain, however, comes from using the Sia Spotlight. 8.4 times less mouse miles by using it to find something inside Sia Engineer. For me, this is also one of the biggest efficiency gains, the Sia Spotlight. You enter your search term, it is automatically completed in the search bar, and then the Spotlight also shows you where you can find this function in the new user interface. Of course, you also have the option to simply press Enter and then execute the function directly from the Sia Spotlight. And we have also tested this with new users. And we found out that the Spotlight, together with all the other ease of use options, new users will save up to 75% of time to learn the new interface. So only in a quarter of the time compared to Sia Engineer 20, you can learn how to work with Sia Engineer 21. And when you get used to this, you will soon wonder how you could have worked without the Sia Spotlight in the past. A second pillar is the leading edge ergonomics. In the past, we often heard from customers that structural engineering softwares in general make a rather overwhelming impression with the hundreds of icons and different menus spread over the screen. Because of this large amount of info, also the most used tools and functions were hard or sometimes even impossible to find. This is one of the things we have worked very hard on for version 21. And as you can see, a total workspace transformation provides you with a maximum screen use, with the project taking the center stage. So you can focus on what's really important. Our main focus for this new user interface is a unique ease of use with a model at the center. We have almost 100% of the screen available for your model compared to about 58% before. This means 50% more of your model in the screen, while all the functions are still very close. With this new interface, your model is central and less zooming is required. And now I come to the last pillar, named on-demand customization. Increasing productivity was also one of the main goals of this new interface. We know all functionalities of the program were always shown. However, there are many of them, so the workflow was not optimized and not applied to the most typical workflows for a standard project. This was also one of our main focus points for version 21. We wanted to ensure that we not only have a unique design, but also a software optimized to the needs of our customers, optimized to the needs of the engineer. The most frequently used functions appears in the front automatically. These can be found in the round wheel at the bottom called the process toolbar. And here you can switch between all different options. In the middle of the process toolbar, you can start a calculation by simply clicking on it. If you don't find our process toolbar organized in an optimal way, no problem at all. You can organize everything the way you like it. Do you want to have internal forces and checks of steel and concrete in the same menu? No problem. You can choose this yourself. And adding something to this process toolbar could not be easier. You just drag it in there. This way, every engineer can adjust the workflows in a way that SCIA Engineer works the way he or she wants it to behave. And we also introduce the same method of flexibility with regard to the shortcuts, which are also very easy to adjust. Of course, we want to make it as easy as possible, and we have looked at the most used functions by our customers, and these are the default ones. So there is no need to personalize everything. We are convinced that our basic setup will already suit your needs very well. But of course, feel free to adjust everything to your preference. This is version 21. As told before, a lot of work, preliminary studies and testing phases were done ahead and during developing of this new interface. Personally, I think it's the most beautiful version of a structural engineering software I have ever seen. I'm extremely enthusiastic, and honestly, after testing version 21, my enthusiasm has only increased. Because, as explained, it's not only the visual aspect that excels in this version, but also the efficiency of your work process will increase very quickly because of the use of the SCIA Spotlight and the customization of this interface to your needs and wishes, and the full screen usage. I recommend you to test it yourself. All feedback is very welcome, as our aim is of course only to improve it further in the future, and the feedback we receive will be taken into account as much as possible for future versions. Thank you for your attention, and have fun with SCIA Engineer 21 in this new, phenomenal user interface. Welcome to the future.
Welcome to the studio, Nele.
I'm very excited to be here.
That was a great presentation, and we see
Thanks.
that a lot of questions have been coming in.
Yes.
So we're going to try and answer a number of them. We can't answer all of them, but as I said before, we will afterwards.
Yes.
Right? So a first question that has been coming on several times is everything supported in the new UI?
Well, in fact, I'm very happy that that question is asked, because the answer is yes. We have supported everything in the new user interface. So we have made, it's not like we, when we did the migration from 64-bit to 32-bit. No, then we have to migrate everything one by one. Here we really decoupled, in fact, the old interface, put a new interface instead of it, or on top of it. Yeah, and in fact, so everything, the whole workflow of the engineer is supported in the new user interface. If you really going to look into the details, you can say that we still want to migrate or still want to add 2 extra functionalities to the new user interface, table input and table results. You can input your structure without table input. You can look at the results without table results. But we also love those functionalities. So those are the 2 missing ones. And we're going to make sure that they are available in version 21.1, and that version will come out in October. So, but in general, yes, everything is supported, and the whole workflow you can do in the new user interface.
That's excellent. So, and where can I find the materials to learn the new UI was also one of those questions.
Okay, to learn it, it's in fact very easy. The user interface works very nice, so it's not so difficult to learn. If you open SCIA Engineer with a new interface the first time, you have an onboarding that starts automatically. And if you follow the onboarding, it takes you like 6 minutes, so it's not a lot of time. If you skip it away and you don't want to follow it at that moment, no problem, you can still find it underneath the help. Also on that onboarding, we have some tutorials included about steel and concrete inside SCIA itself. But next to that, we also have mini trainings on our website, and we have webinars we're going to organize in the future, in the coming weeks. And there we have one webinar specifically about the new user interface, but also webinars about the new functionalities that we added in SCIA Engineer in version 21. So functions and features that has been added. That's in one of the next presentations, I think.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Then I also saw a question from Anestis. Is the logic of the workflow the same? For instance, document creation is a separate process. Has that changed as well?
If I look at the document creation, it's exactly the same. So from the new user interface, you can just go to your engineering report. The engineering report is a separate program, a separate executable, and it will just start up as it was in the past. You can make your report. It works the same. Of course, the whole workflow, is it the same? You can run the same workflow in SCIA Engineer, but we have improved the workflow a lot. So to say it's completely the same, that's not the case. It's better.
Yes, it's better. Okay, great. And then from Byron Bezas, can we use SCIA Engineer 21 with our standard dongles?
It's a very good question. So from version 21 on, we only support cloud licenses, so SAN modules. But that doesn't mean that you cannot use SCIA Engineer without internet. So with the SAN modules, you can, for example, be offline for a couple of days. So if you need to go on the airplane or something like that, you can just be decoupled for a couple of days, no problem. And if you really have no internet available at all in your office, also for those, we have a solution with those SAN modules, with those cloud licenses. But for version 21, we only support cloud licenses.
Okay. And from Shanda Munikong, SCIA Engineer 21, does that have full functionality for 64-bit?
I must say almost. So it's like if we look at the workflows from our customers, and we are measuring, in fact, how many every tool is used, we see that 98%, so only 2% missing functionalities, let's say, are completely supported in 64-bit. So 98% of the engineers can really work in the 64-bit version. And we are really looking at those last things to migrate them as soon as possible.
All right. Yeah. And then Christian Gereda, the calculation of concrete reinforcement was slow. Did this improve?
Yes, you will see that in the next presentation. So the calculation of 2D reinforcement, for example, it's speeded up for 50%. So it's now 50% faster. So there was a big change.
Yes. And Manuel Casanova, which is our last question because otherwise we're running out of time. Is it possible to do P-delta calculation?
Yeah, I assume P-delta, then he means the second order calculations. That was always available in SCIA Engineer already for years. So it's also available, and in the new interface and in 64-bit, you can just do that.
All right. Well, I know that there are a lot more questions, but we will list them up. We'll try to tackle them in the Q&A later today, where you will be there as well.
Yes.
And the ones that we can't get to, we will follow up with afterwards. So thank you very much for your answers, Nele, and I'll see you again in a little bit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about SCIA Engineer 21. I'm sure that you want to see it in action too. So Jad El Alam, our International Customer Support Manager, will do a demo of SCIA Engineer 21 for you. Jad, why don't you show us?
Hello, I'm very proud to present to you today the new revolutionary interface of SCIA Engineer 21. The first thing that you will notice is the bigger working space, where the 3D graphical display takes up the majority of your screen. We have new components, but also existing improved components. In total, we have 8 main components: the 3D graphical display, the input panel, the process toolbar, the main menu, the SCIA spotlight, the status bar, the property panel, and the view bar with the Navicube. Let us now dive in and see the first new component. The first thing that you will notice is the input panel. The input panel is, as the name says, is where you would go to input things in your model, like inputting a structural element like a beam or a slab, or also inputting loads. Notice here the new and improved icons. We have done a substantial effort to rethink all icons with the purpose to simplify them. And by using consequent color schemes and sub-elements, we have made it easier and more intuitive to understand what each icon does. The input panel is split into workstations. You can have all of them visible, like we do here, or you can select, for example, the Loads workstation. And by this, you will only see relevant information for inputting loads. You can also change to the Structure workstation, and by this, you will see all structural elements that you can input in your model. Needless to say that you can change the position of your input panel, you can dock it, and you can also choose to show category headers, which will show you the text. Let us now go to the next component, which is closely related to the input panel, and that is the main menu. It is located on the top left of your screen. In the main menu, you will find back all action-related items. This goes from a set of tools, to results, to design, to view settings, and to the libraries or the help menu. Let us now go to see the Sia Spotlight, which is located in the top middle of your screen. The Sia Spotlight is where you would go to launch a command or simply search for it. How it works is that you simply type the name of the command that you want. You can launch it from here, or you can choose the Show Me function, and it will show you where it is located in the main menu. And that's not everything. You can also change the shortcut of your commands by simply pointing to the right of your command and choosing a shortcut. But that's not all what the Spotlight can do. It will also guide you through the different stages when launching a command. For example, to insert a beam, you can use the Spotlight to insert the coordinate, or also to draw a polyline, a straight line, a circular arc, for example. Let us now go to the process toolbar. It's located at the bottom left side of your screen. This is where the customization of your Sia Engineer starts, but it's not where it ends. The toolbar is completely customizable for every user. So you can see here that you have multiple icons for different workstations, like Results, Steel, Concrete, Reports, Structure. And all commands inside are for you to customize, based on your needs. Now, how to customize your process toolbar? Let me show you. First, locate the command that you want, either in the main menu or in the Sia Spotlight. You can search, for example, for your command, and simply drag and drop it in the working station that you want. And what if we want to remove a command? Well, it's as easy as putting it in. You simply drag and drop. Another nice feature is to be able to have two open working stations at the same time. This will allow you to go from checking the result to the Steel code check, for example. How to do it? It's easy. Select the first working station you want, and then, while holding the Control key, press the second working station. The Calculate button is also located conveniently at the center of the process toolbar, allowing you to quickly locate it and start the calculation of your project. Let's go now to the next component, which is the status bar. It's located at the top right corner of your screen. The first thing in the status bar is the active load cases. Here you can see a list of all your load cases, and also you can go through them one by one, and you can modify them if needed. Next, you have your snapping option, your coordinate system, your length unit. You can also change the national annex and your code, and use the status bar to change the scale. We also have two new features in the status bar, which are the auto refresh and the grid mode. The auto refresh will automatically redraw results on the structure when you change a result property, like for example changing from normal forces N to the bending moment My. This will save you a lot of clicks and hence a lot of time. Of course, by default, this feature is switched off, so you have to activate it manually. The grid mode will switch on and off the editing mode of the line grids. With this editing mode on, we can only edit the existing grid lines, and with the editing mode off, we can only use the grid as snap points to define our structure. Next component is the property panel. The property panel is known to most of us from the previous versions of SCIA Engineer, but we have managed to find a way to make it even more powerful and, most importantly, easier to use. The first improvement is the filter option, which is now called Expand Selection. What this will allow you to do is to select multiple elements based on multiple criteria that you define. It is very easy to use. Just select an element, go to the criteria that you want to use for your selection. For example, here I will choose the cross-section. Right-click on it and click on Expand Selection. This will automatically select all elements with the same cross-section. Another nice feature is the ability to see immediately what are the objects in my selection. Let us say that you have multiple elements selected. Now you can quickly distinguish what are the elements in your selection. If you want to deselect an element, just simply drag and drop. Another nice feature is the ability to see what are the related elements to a single member. For example, if you select a beam, you can immediately see the related elements to that beam. And you can see the loads that are here and the nodes that are related to that beam. Graphical display is very important, and so is the ability to quickly change the view of our model. And that brings us to the view bar and navicube located at the bottom right corner of your screen. Here, you can quickly access the view parameters to modify rendering settings, toggle or hide the supports, and of course, see more advanced settings. You also have the navicube, which will allow you to quickly rotate your structure and change the viewpoints. If you want to learn the new user interface of SCIA Engineer, or if you are a new user of SCIA Engineer, we made it super easy for you to learn SCIA Engineer. We have built directly in SCIA Engineer an onboarding program that will teach you the software in 6 minutes only. All you have to do is go to the Help menu and start your onboarding tutorial. We have currently 2 onboarding tutorials, one for concrete and one for steel, but we will later on expand these tutorials to have a bigger list. I will go to the onboarding steel tutorial, and this will open a new project. Now that this new project is open, all you have to do is simply follow the steps of the tutorial, and it will guide you through the interface and explain to you what each command does. That was a quick overview of the new interface of SCIA Engineer 21. I really hope you will enjoy it just as much that we have enjoyed making it for you. Be prepared to have your efficiency increased. Enjoy SCIA Engineer 21, super powered, super easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jat. By now, I'm sure that you know that we're all very excited about this new release. And we know that it's actually more convincing when you hear one of our users talk about their experience. For the new SCIA Engineer 21, we were lucky to have a significant number of customers participate in the beta program. And Matthew Burton from ACOM was one of them. Our account manager, Amin Gossain, had a chat with him to talk about his experiences. So let's have a look.
Welcome to our studio. Today's chat is with Matthew Burton of ACOM. Matthew Burton is a beta tester for our V21. Welcome, Matthew. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and your company?
Yeah, sure. I'm Matt Burton. as you said, I'm a principal structural engineer at AECOM, and I am the beta tester on SCIA 21. AECOM are a multinational, multidiscipline consulting firm. One branch of the AECOM family is structures, and that is where I lay my engineering hat.
Thank you. How long have you been working with SCIA Engineer, and what do you use it for?
Well, I've been with AECOM for 13 years, and I've been using SCIA for just as many years. I have used SCIA Engineer in the design of schools, train depots, airports, stadiums, pavilions. It's probably easier just to say a broad multitude of structures I've designed in SCIA Engineer.
Great. Thank you. And about SCIA Engineer 21, you've had the opportunity to be part of our beta tester group for this new and exciting release of SCIA 21. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience with SCIA Engineer 21 and what is your impression?
My first impressions of SCIA 21. So SCIA 21 and the new user interface, it's been on my radar for a few years. And if there's a complaint that I've heard about using SCIA over the years, which I've also heard as a positive, is that there's a lot of ways you can approach analysis within it. So for me, that's a positive because it's versatile enough to use across the breadth of projects that I mentioned. But it does mean you've got like the scope for two similar engineers to do different things in SCIA. And my impression on 21 is that aside from the obvious jazzy overhaul that is really going to be very productive, the way we approach analysis is going to be directed to the search bar. We're not going to need to go looking for the functions we want and working out which bars they're in. We're going to be able to search consistently and logically. It's a different way of working, and I think it's going to make analysis methodology a lot more efficient and consistent without losing any of that versatility.
Which are for you the key highlights or the highlights which you found most desirable of the new release, new interface?
The key highlights for the new user interface, well, that's going to be the SCIA Spotlight, the search bar. It's for the consistency. I think this is more because it's how I like to work, but I also like the ability to customize the shortcut to user keys rather than going through the toolbars. I like the thought that if I've got something I've been doing 100 times, I'm just going to set a nice little hotkey and go for it every time.
Yeah. And what are the main benefits you've experienced?
The main benefits in the 21. So again, I'm going to say that that's the search bar. So I've never really liked the way you may look for things like averaging strips in, say, concrete, but you wouldn't find them in analysis. But that's all going to go now. If I'm looking for averaging strips, I'll be able to type it in and it's there. Anything I want, as long as I can think, what is this in engineering terms? I'm going to find it straight away in a consistent way. I like that. It removes any reliance that I need to be looking in the right area to find something or to find a specific methodology. It's going to keep things versatile by, when I search for something, giving me the full list of possible options to conduct the analysis without having to just stumble across it. I like that a lot.
Did SCIA Engineer 21's new interface exceed your expectations, and how?
My expectations of SCIA 21. Well, I was on the first calls to talk about changing the user interface back in 2018. So my expectations were already in line with what I've seen. But I think it was a big challenge, a big leap, and it offers a lot of benefits when you spend the time on it. So I think those who aren't expecting this are going to be really quite impressed.
Yeah, thank you. Would you recommend SCIA Engineer 21 and why?
I would recommend SCIA 21 to long-term SCIA users who want to spend a bit more time on design and less in setting things up. And for new users and the the generations that have been brought up on highly visual user interfaces or programming and prefer simple searches, to them I think this is going to feel really familiar.
Okay. We're moving to the end of the chat. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I don't have anything coming to mind. Good luck with the release. Looking forward to seeing it rolled out and seeing how people use it.
Thank you, Matthew, for your time.
Thank you.
This was the chat with Matthew. For more information, please visit our website or download the trial for the spectacular release of V21.
And now it's time to move into the super-powered part of our version 21. Because we have also continued to develop the technical capabilities of our Sia Engineer. And as usual, these are in different domains. Our colleague Michiel Jeunen from our customer service department will talk about that with you shortly. And later, we will have a series of webinars in which we will elaborate on all these developments. But first, however, I would like to give the floor to Jaël Verkammer to present you the results of the annual Voice of the Customer poll, in which you, the users, actually determine the top 3 developments we do. Jaël has already earned her reputation within the Sia support team and has recently, since a few months, moved to the function of product owner for the metal team. She's responsible for defining the capabilities of the development of steel, aluminum, timber, and composites. She too will be joining me later after her presentation here at the table to answer your questions. Jaël, give it a shot.
Hi all, I'm excited to present you the winners of this year's customer poll. In first place, with 37% of the votes, stands the option for a full-length lateral torsional buckling restraint. When inputting LTB restraints for steel, aluminium, timber, and composite, you will now find the option to activate it over the whole length of your members. In the 3D scene, a buckling restraint icon with 2 arrows will be shown, as you can see behind me. On the check side, the lateral torsional buckling effects will be ignored and a message is displayed stating that the check is ignored because the member is supported along its full length. A close second, with 34% of the votes, is the possibility to display only selected values for a result table with multiple components. The option existed in the old post-processing environment and has now been fully migrated on your request. It allows you to reduce the size of your tables in the preview window and in the engineering report by only displaying the components you are interested in. Simply choose for components under values and select the components you would like to display. The tables in the preview and the engineering report will be adapted accordingly. Finally, the third and last item concerns our concrete users, with just under 30% of the votes. The detailed output for the reinforcement design of columns will now feature information about the slenderness and calculation of the ULS design forces. When opening the detailed output for a column under compression, you will find a table displaying the slenderness and eccentricities used to account for second-order effects. This way, you know exactly how the forces in the ULS column design were determined. More details about these 3 items will be given during upcoming webinar series about the new developments. So stay tuned if you want to find out more.
Let us have a look at the new functionalities in this version 21. We will start with some general functionalities. Version 21 brings a new method for the calculation of section properties using the finite element method. This method overcomes the limitation of the currently implemented Groshoff-Jurowski method. It allows for the correct calculation of shear, torsion and warping stresses for any cross-section shape, including composed sections and sections with large openings. Another new functionality is a new property modification group for the combination of mass groups. This allows to reduce the stiffness of a structure or exclude particular elements from modal and seismic analysis in an easy way. What about 64-bit migration? Well, in version 21, it is possible to input and display an interval of results. This is supported for reactions and all 1D results, such as 1D internal forces, reinforcement design, and is also possible for checks. The option Extreme Set to No, which allows to display all possible results in all sections and/or mesh nodes, is now also available in 64-bit. Next, we have migrated traffic loads in order to be able to generate loads according to a defined load pattern and traffic lines. Finally, nonlinear stability calculation is also enabled in post-processing environment default and the 64-bit version. This can be interesting to use for the scaffolding users in particular. Now, what about what's new for steel? Before version 21, the highest section class along the member was used as a class for stability checks. This approach is a very conservative one, as the position of this highest class is not always relevant. In version 21, you can choose to use Utilization Factor. This factor will be determined for each section in order to determine the critical class for member buckling design. The section with the highest utilization factor will determine the class for stability design. This allows for economical designs, save material, and for you to stay ahead of your competition. Another new feature we have is the easy bow imperfection input. It is no longer necessary to input buckling groups on all elements in your project in order to take into account bow imperfections. There's now a default setting for bow imperfections inside the material setup. Input imperfections on all your steel, timber, composite, and aluminum members in just a few clicks. Finally, let us see what is new in the concrete service. The main focus for the concrete service was to simplify things. In other words, we are striving for an easy concrete solution. We try to realize this in all sorts of ways. The biggest change that is immediately visible is the single concrete setup. No more navigating between two menus for general and reinforcement settings. All these settings can now be found in a single concrete setup. Here, there are some predefined views with the possibility to save frequently used views to allow easier customization. Next, there is the option to input an explicit design diameter per reinforcement layer in order to have a more transparent input for design diameter. This implies that the area of required reinforcement is calculated independently on provided reinforcement inputs. This is available for 1D and 2D elements. As a result, the design itself is significantly faster when only the provided reinforcement is changed. Another useful functionality is a new action button, Edit Provided Reinforcement Template. This enables you to change the provided reinforcement defined by the template and saves you some clicks to get to this menu. In version 21, it is also possible to define different provided reinforcement settings per wall surfaces, including the concrete cover. This enables you to input non-symmetrical reinforcement for wall elements. A common problem in previous versions was a difficulty to modify internal forces in order to ignore some component or components. For example, to simulate pure uniaxial loading with or without torsion. This modification can now be done within the single concrete setup. So simply choose which type of modification you want to have on a certain type of element and have full control over what internal forces are considered in both the designs and checks of 1D concrete members. Continuing the new functionalities, we see that when designing the required reinforcement area for 2D members, the peaks where the required reinforcement is bigger than the maximum allowed reinforcement will now be limited to avoid using an unrealistic amount of reinforcement. This limitation also improves the graphical representation of the required reinforcement, as there is no specific need to make an adaptation to the color palette. The next big improvement is the design of reinforcement by checks for beams and columns. This functionality allows you to automatically design economical and sufficient reinforcement on beams and columns in order to quickly verify the structure with a realistic amount of reinforcement. This implies that no manual changes of the design reinforcement need to be made to fulfill all the checks. Overall, you will also notice some speed improvements of the reinforcement design, particularly for 2D members. Finally, we will discuss the codependent deflections with 3 new functionalities. The first one being that the codependent deflections can now take shrinkage deformation into account for both 1D and 2D members. Next, you are able to input manual combinations for the evaluation of creep and immediate deflection. Lastly, the standard and detailed output for a codependent deflection calculation is now available, which leads to fully transparent calculation and results. This concludes our What's New in version 21. We hope you will enjoy all new functionalities.
Welcome, Jael, in the studio.
Thank you, Hilde.
Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you again.
We got a number of questions in and we took a couple out. We can't answer them all, but let's, look at the ones that we selected. The first question is actually from Adam David. Is there a shortcut for Spotlight, like on Mac Command plus space?
Yes, and the shortcut is even shorter than the Mac shortcut. Actually, you just press your spacebar and then you're immediately typing in the Spotlight.
Pretty handy.
Very handy.
And Alessandro asked, has the new National Annex of Italy been implemented?
Yeah, that's a good question. In this version, the new support for national annexes is quite limited, but that's because there's actually a new generation of Eurocodes incoming. So we are preparing to implement those and then continue with adapting DNAs after.
Okay. Hanyu asks, will the solver be 64-bit?
The solver is already 64-bit, so...
So yes.
Yes.
Right. And Stefan says, is it possible to save the user-defined interface and give it to other people?
That's, again, a nice question, because the answer is yes. Actually, it's very simple. There's just a tiny file with all your user configurations. So if one of your colleagues has made the perfect SCIA for your company, he can simply share this file with everyone.
That makes it very easy. All right, and then I also have a question here from before. Is the full-length LTB restraint applied to one or both sides of the beam?
Okay. When you input the LTB restraint, you choose whether you apply it on the top or the bottom side. But you can actually input a second LTB restraint on your beam, so you can input both one on the top and one on the bottom, and then both sides are also restrained.
So, yes, it's possible.
It is possible.
All right. And then another question, what is the response from the customers with regards to the user poll that we do every year?
Yeah. We've been doing the user poll for 4 years now. And of course, our users like to have a voice in the new developments, but also on the SCIA side, as product owner, we love to hear about what our customers would like for SCIA Engineer as well. So basically, it's a win-win situation. And we actually plan to go on and extend this for next year. Because we feel that our customers want a bigger voice in this, so we will have a separate poll for some bigger development items that will then be implemented on the longer term.
That sounds great. Well, thank you. I think we have to end here due to time constraints, but there, of course, the questions that haven't been answered, you'll get to see them too, and you can answer them afterwards.
I will, for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you for being here. All right, to finalize our discussion on SCIA Engineer 21, Irka Schepers, one of our account managers, had a chat with Victor Varconi, our Chief Division Officer at Nemetschek NI, to talk about our thoughts about the new developments. So let's have a look.
Welcome. Today we have Victor Varconi from the Nemetschek Group and Hilde Sevens, CEO of SCIA, with us. Victor, Hilde, thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
And I will start with the first question. Victor, can you maybe explain your function within the Nemetschek Group?
Yes, of course. I'm the Chief Division Officer from the Nemetschek Group. So the Nemetschek Group is organized into 3 or 4 major divisions, addressing the specific needs of market verticals. And I'm responsible for the design division, taking care on our customers who are on the design side of the AEC workflows. So we are highly focused on the BIM market. And I'm personally engaged with this market for quite long. I joined my first company, Graphisoft, in '92. So since then, I'm in the industry. It's a fascinating marketplace where we are. So I'm really excited to be in this group.
Thank you.
And obviously, my job is to take care on the global strategies, taking care on our brands that are spread all over the world, and to make sure that we stay at front of the industry.
And can you remember the first time you heard about the project?
Yes, I think it was like 3 years ago when we had a deep strategy discussion with Hilda and the management team of SCIA. And that discussion was about that, which I think is very important in the software industry, but also in every business, that how you reinvent yourselves time by time to make sure that our technologies, our solutions are not aging, but we always stay ahead of the competition. And I think what SCIA started 3 years ago is exactly addressing this need, that to make sure that we deliver a very competitive solution to our customers.
Thank you. And Hilde, what was your first impression of the new UI?
Well, of course, I've followed the new UI all along throughout the 3 years, but I was thrilled, really thrilled with the fact that the whole UI is basically working in perfect harmony with the structural engineer. And that was always the intention, right? The fact that we have built in a full workspace transformation to allow the engineer to have their projects front and center, have much more space to work in. And the key point that I really get excited about is the fact that this user interface is not just easy to use and easy to learn, but it is a lot of fun to use. And that really gets me excited.
Me too. And where does the new UI differ from the old one?
Well, the old one, it's a little bit like what Victor was saying. We really want to be ahead of the curve. And if we look at the old UI, it is, how all the structural engineering software is looking like today. What we wanted to do is really bring about a revolution on user experience. So we really focused on user experience. And when you have a UI with a lot of features and functions like we do with SCIA Engineer, it's easy that things get a little cluttered, or what we sometimes heard from our customers was, we can't find this or that function very easily. And so we really focused on building into an intuitive workspace and an intuitive way of finding things. Like we have this feature called Spotlight, which allows you to find anything, in a split second. And that really makes the environment intuitive and easy to learn and use. So that's really where one of the areas that we differ from before. And I really believe that it is a revolution in user experience in our field that we work in.
Yes, absolutely. Victor, I have another question for you. Do you feel that UI has an impact or can contribute to raise productivity and ROI within the AEC market?
Oh, absolutely. And I just want to emphasize that many people consider UI as a bunch of, dialogues and menu items and so on. And in my opinion, that's somewhat different. That's just what we see. The UI and UX has to go way much deeper. So a modern and fresh UI always comes together with a modern and fresh software inside as well. So if there is a mismatch, then it immediately comes to the surface. You just cannot hide it. So if just think about products, what you use day by day, like Apple, for instance, an iPhone, it has a beautiful UI, but it also has a lot of substance behind. So certainly, if you have a modern technology behind, then you have to enjoy a lot of benefits. I probably would like to bring up three major aspects. The first one probably that our job is to make sure that our clients can focus on their job. So ultimately, they have to deliver on the client requirements in terms of cost, functions, the quality. And if the software is just behaves as our user would assume, then that mission can be accomplished, that he or she can really focus on the job. And by doing that, the second aspect probably is that we can unleash creativity. So design is always about thinking and how the software supports the creative process. That's extremely important. If we always have to search for certain buttons and memorize them, that how I can do this or that, then we are not driving success. And of course, what Hilde already mentioned, that fun and enjoyment, it's always very strongly linked with the user interface. And ultimately, enjoyment in work, that brings a lot of motivation to our clients, which also productivity, but probably that also very helpful that in our clients can attract the best people out on the market. So I think I could bring up some examples that how UI really delivers productivity and ROI in many different aspects.
Yeah, I can confirm. Hilde, how do you think this will affect the day-to-day workflow of a structural engineer?
I think it will affect it drastically. I think the efficiency will, get a huge, step forward. People will be having an easier time to learn the software and to use them in a day-to-day setting. And as Victor mentioned too, I think the fun fact, although that might sound like, it's not work related, but it is. If you have to work day in, day out with one tool, then it better be fun to use it, right? So I think that's also going to enhance that efficiency and the creativity of the structural engineer, allowing the structural engineers to focus on the things that they like the best and they want to do the most.
Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely going to be a huge
when it
difference.
looks nice, then it's fun to work with.
Yeah.
And Victor, do you think we are changing the market of structural engineering software?
Hopefully, yes. So you have to know, guys, that I'm not a structural engineer, but I've been always fascinated on all the new technologies that year by year are coming to our industry. If you are just thinking about that, what kind of buildings we are designing today and has been designed a couple of years ago in terms of materials and shapes and forms, then the market around us is just extremely fast. So here there is millions of places for innovation. And with Sia, I'm absolutely sure that we are ahead of the market and leading these transformations in the industry and unleashing innovation. And I always say on business reviews or business discussions that when I hear that some people saying that this is our competitive advantage, then I'm saying that no, that's not right. I mean, our competitive advantage is that we deliver competitive advantage to our customers. So ultimately, we have to innovate in a way that our customers can be the best out on the market. So, yeah, I mean, this is the role of software to make sure that our customers can be ahead of the industry and the competition.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And as you said yourself, Victor, the Nemetschek Group has always been very innovative. Can you tell us maybe a bit about how you see the future?
Oh, there is millions of trends out on the market. Maybe I would pick up one because a short time, and that is that the world around us is extremely fast and just getting faster and faster every day. So it's absolutely critical that how we can respond, how fast we can respond to the client needs. And in most of the cases, those needs are not constant. So it's just as the projects are evolving, they have new and new ideas. And we have to be very responsive for that. So that comes with a lot of conclusions. First of all, for instance, that we have to bring the professions closer to each other. So the Nemetschek group is quite innovative on the area that how we can make sure that architects, structure engineers, and different other engineering disciplines, how they join as one team. If you follow up the announcements, then you can hear that how many great stuff are coming out from the group concerning that how ArchiCAD, Allplan, Sia, our leading solutions are working together. Just to mention the latest announcement from Sia, the Sia Auto Converter, which I think really connects the structural engineering profession into the overall design flow.
Thank you very much. Do you like to say something else to our customers?
Oh, probably my message would be that don't afraid to change, because and whenever you make a decision to change your processes, then do it with full stamina. That I've seen those customers of ours being very successful, where there is a clear management decision and afterwards a very strict execution. And our market is just so fast around us that it's just great if you keep up with all the innovations that are around us, and then hopefully Sia and all the other Nemetschek businesses can help you on this journey.
Thank you very much for the last question.
I would like to add something to that too, if you don't mind. I think to Victor's point, it's change is hard. Everybody has a hard time with changes. This is a huge change in our user experience and our user interface. So I think it's sometimes a little daunting for customers. But I am convinced that if they use it one day, maybe a week or so, that they would not want to go back to the old user experience and user interface. So when they do make the decision to move to V21, and I hope they all will very quickly, that they indeed go with stamina and just go for it, and they'll see that it's very much in their benefit, and they're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I'm also convinced with that. And with that last question, we're coming to an end to this interview. Hilde, Victor, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And now we're going back to the studio.
At last year's industry conference, we introduced Sia Auto Converter to you. We're now almost a year further, and we already have a lot of our customers using the tool. Herman Ogink, our Director of Product and Alliances, will be showing you in his presentation all the functions and advantages of the tool. And using a practical example, we will show you a proof of concept of the added value and the time savings you can get with Sia Auto Converter. Today, this will be a comparison between the traditional way of working in SCIA Engineer, where you would build up a new analysis model from scratch, and how you could get to the same analysis model using Sia Auto Converter. After his presentation, Herman will be here in the studio with me to answer all your questions, so please post them in the chat window. Thank you. Now, Herman, go ahead.
1 year ago, we launched the Sia Auto Converter, a real innovation improving the workflow between a modeler and the structural engineer. This is still a weak spot in the daily life of the engineer and the modeler. In many cases, models are created twice, once in the BIM authoring tools and again in the analysis software. Also, changes are not always managed properly, which results in uncertainty if the models are still aligned. Is the analysis model still in line with the latest BIM model, or is the BIM model still in line with the analysis model? Already many customers are using this application and drastically decrease their time spending on creation of an analysis model. For the creation of the geometry, we have seen speed improvements of more than 100 times faster. For the full model, including loads and boundary conditions, a time saving of 50% is realistic. For the people who didn't have the opportunity to look at the Sia Auto Converter, let me give you a brief overview of what it all does. The Sia Auto Converter is a web application that is able to convert automatically any structural model, load-bearing model I mean, from any BIM tool like Allplan, Archicad, Revit, Tekla into an analysis model. Not remodeling in your analysis application, but reusing the model created in the CAD system. The big benefit is that the Sia Auto Converter is an independent application to be used by the engineer, which gives the engineer full control over the creation of the analysis model. And the analysis model is the base for the structural analysis and thus should be controlled by the engineer. This is a big benefit compared to the creation of the analysis model from scratch again in the analysis software, or when the analysis model is created inside a CAD system where the engineer has less control, as a CAD system is normally not the tool for an engineer. And it also makes life of the modeler more complex, as the modeler has to maintain two models, the structural model and the analysis model, where this analysis model doesn't belong to the expertise, to his or her expertise. Let me dive a bit deeper into the technology. First thing we do is taking the structural model coming from any BIM tool. For that we use IFC. The model is uploaded to the cloud and the Sia Auto Converter reads this model, and first things an engineer can do is cleaning the model. Different functions are available to get rid of all non-load-bearing objects. Normally they shouldn't be in the structural model, but reality proves that it is still the case in many models. After that, we will recognize the load-bearing objects and transfer them to an analysis object. Cross-sections and materials will be mapped to the cross-section and materials used in your analysis software. You can also decide if you want objects to be calculated as 1D or 2D. For instance, if you have a white column, you can decide not to calculate it as a 1D column, but as a 2D wall. Based on this input, we create analysis objects. All structural objects will be recognized and transferred to analysis objects. For manufactured profiles, the mapping table will be used to transfer them to known profiles in the analysis software. All other shapes will be recognized and automatically transferred to parametric sections, if that's possible, or to general polygon sections. Once the model has been transferred to analysis objects, we have to connect the whole model. Here, sophisticated algorithms have been developed to do a global alignment fully automatically. Of course, the engineer can influence and steer the algorithms to get the outcome he wants. I'm talking about system line positioning, decisions about taking eccentricities into account, maximum extensions of elements to get connected, creating ribs from beams under a slab, etc. The final result is an analysis model that can be imported in analysis software, where loads and boundaries can be added. For the transfer from the Sia Auto Converter to analysis software, we have created a new exchange format called SAF. SAF stands for Structural Analysis Format, and it is based on Excel. This has been developed by and for structural engineers. They all use Excel, and they all want an open and transparent exchange format that can easily be adapted when needed. There are already many companies supporting this SAF format, and thus can be used in relation with the Sia Auto Converter. Of course, SCIA Engineer is fully supporting it, but also, for instance, Axis VM and FEM design. There's also a SAF converter developed, transferring a SAF into a native RFEM and robot file. There are about 17 companies supporting or currently implementing this SAF format. So we have explained how we transferred any BIM model to an analysis model and how we can transfer this model to any analysis software where you can add loads and boundaries and do your analysis. But what if the structural model is changed? Do we have to start all over again? Or what happens when the engineer has done adjustments in the analysis software, like for instance changing the cross-section, changing the thickness of a slab? How are they going back to the modeler? For that, we have developed a full round-trip capabilities. Let me explain. If in the CAD system a structural model has changed, it can be uploaded as a new revision. Once it is uploaded, the Sia Auto Converter can compare those two models. And we will visualize the changes in those two models, in those two revisions. And we can produce a full report of those changes in detail. Then the engineer can decide what needs to be updated in the analysis model by just selecting the changed objects. The Sia Auto Converter will then automatically update the existing analysis model while keeping all loads and boundaries that have been defined in the analysis software. The other way around is a bit similar. When the engineer has done modifications in the analysis software, he can upload a new revision of this analysis model to the Sia Auto Converter. The Sia Auto Converter will compare and visualize these changes. The engineer can then decide what is of importance for the modeler for updating the structural model. But we will not automatically update the structural model, but we will create tasks or issues that will trigger a workflow between the modeler and the engineer. The platform we use has a full issue management system behind. This gives us the capability to exchange the changes with the modeler, and he can act accordingly, like change cross-sections, increase thickness of a slab, for instance. As long as the issue is not closed, it's open and in the list of issues to be solved, meaning that there is a full control and management of these changes. These issues can also be exported to other issue management tools via BCF. BCF stands for BIM Collaboration Format, an exchange format for exchanging issues. This is in brief what the Sia Auto Converter is doing, converting automatically any CAD model into an analysis model, saving you about 50% time in creation of models and gives you full control over the changes happening during the progress of the project. And with that, reducing the errors occurring by not having the BIM model and the analysis model aligned. This application is unique and a real innovation, improving and optimizing the workflow between a modeler and an engineer. Please contact us or go to our website and download a trial to experience this unique solution. Thanks for your attention.
Welcome to the studio, Herman.
Thank you, Hilde.
Great presentation.
Thanks.
We have a number of questions that came in ahead of time.
Okay.
So I'll be posing them together with some other questions that came in through our chat window. First question is, when you say that Sia Auto Converter is 150 times faster, what exactly do you mean?
What do we mean by that? That means that if you compare it with input of the geometry in Sia by using PDFs or DVFs, it means that you have to model the whole geometry there manually, and that takes about, you have seen in this example, about 15, 16 hours, depending of course on the model. If we do the same in the autoconverter and we get an IFC in and we transfer that automatically, then we are doing that maybe in 7-8 minutes, depending again about the model. And that's a huge time saving. Of course, you still have to go to SCIA and you have to input your loads and your boundary condition. So that will also take time. And that maybe in average that you can save 50% time gaining for completing the whole model. But pure the geometry, that's absolutely fast. Let's call it like that.
Yeah. Sounds like it. So do you need SCIA Engineer then to work with Sia Auto Converter?
No, the nicest thing is that we build an application completely neutral. That means we can get any CAD model from any CAD system. We use IFC for that. And we created a new exchange format calling SAF, Structural Analysis Format. That's really new for exchanging analysis models. And each software which is supporting that SAF format can use the autoconverter. And there are already quite some software who is using it. Calling about Axis VM, for instance. VM Design is using it. But we also made a converter for Robot and Global. So all that software can be used together with the autoconverter.
And the SAF format, that is based on Excel?
Yeah, it's based on Excel. We also listen to what our engineers are using, and each engineer worldwide is using Excel. So we made an easy-to-use format, and that's based on Excel. That's correct. Great. It's public. It's everybody can read on the internet, can have a look into the documentation. It's fully described, and of course, SCIA Engineer is supporting it fully.
Right. And can you then also use architectural models?
Yeah, so that's also a good question. We always talk about structural models, but of course an architectural model is also possible to use with the autoconverter. You will have probably a little bit more work with cleaning of the model because there's maybe a lot of things in it which are not directly load-bearing connected, so you can clean it. And if the model is properly done, and not that you click a wall and the whole building is selected, but if you have really those objects created in the architectural model, we can absolutely convert that. And we have already quite some examples that we got architectural models and that the engineer can use that already in conceptual stage to create an analysis model. Yes,
that sounds
absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
We also got, and this is the last question that we're going to tackle. We got a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Is Sia Auto Converter a free software?
That's a good question. Yeah, if you look at the price of the autoconverter, we could say it's for free. It's hardly any money. We talk about €199 a month. It's a subscription model. And if you look at the hours and the money you gain, in fact, you gain money if you have this, this application.
Money.
You get extra money. So, so don't let be blocked by that. Absolutely
yes.
not.
Well, with the price point and the time savings, the ROI is like instantaneously, right?
It's a no-brainer. If you have maybe 3-4 days gaining on a whole year, the application has been earned back. So that's, in my opinion, a no-brainer.
Yeah, in my opinion too.
So we agree.
Yes. So thank you for the answers. If other questions come in during the rest, then we will certainly take them up later on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. See you.
So the last part of our Sia Auto Converter section will be showcasing one of our customers. Herman will be having a chat with Arnaud Dumoulin. He's a project engineer from the Swiss company Leusinger Marazzi. And Herman will be talking with him about how they use Sia Auto Converter and where they see the gain. After the chat, I will make room for our customer support team and Nele to do a Q&A session here. So let's have a look.
We are very happy to have Arnaud Dumoulin from the firma Leusinger Marazzi as our guest. Arnaud has been a user from the Sia Auto Converter from the first hour. So he is willing to share his experience with us. Welcome, Arnaud, to this interview.
Thank you. And hello to everyone.
Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and the company Leusinger Marazzi?
Yes, of course. So I'm a civil engineer living in Switzerland for almost 9 years now and working for over 6 years. I started my work experience in an engineering office where I spent about 2.5 years mainly working on the conception of bridges. After this first experience, I wanted to get closer to the practical aspects of a construction site, as well as to get to know better the structural peculiarities of buildings. I found exactly what I was looking for at Leusinger Marazzi, where I started about 4 years ago as a project engineer. Maybe a few words about Lusing & Marazzi. So Lusing & Marazzi is a general contractor handling all type of buildings, going from the construction of a new residential area to the extension of a hospital, of an existing hospital.
What made you decide to choose for a tool such as the Sia Auto Converter?
So usually when I have to pre-dimension a project, there's little time to do the job. So as there wasn't enough time to do everything, I had to choose which part of the project I had to put my efforts in. Now with Sia Auto Converter and its ability to elaborate structural models from architectural models with a few clicks, I have much more time spent in the actual structural analysis, and I have to spend much less time in the modeling part of the job.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit more about the experience with the Sia Auto Converter? Can you maybe describe a project where you use the Sia Auto Converter for?
Yes, of course. So since my first usage of Sia Auto Converter, I found it very, very easy to get to know the software and to use it. From the first step being uploading a model to the BIM Plus, then selecting it, filtering it, getting the different steps to the final step being the alignment process. Very easy to use. I used it on a project called Cressé Arbora, which is a residential area with some commercial buildings, but mainly residential. And I use it to make a structural model from an architectural model. So in a few clicks, I had a perfect geometric model which I could use to pre-dimension the slabs, the walls, everything. So very, very useful to use, and you gain a lot of time by using it.
Okay, that's good to hear. And what impact did the Sia Auto Converter made at your company? Do you have measurable results, decrease in time or other results?
Yeah, I would say a project that would take normally about a week to do the job, I win about 1 or 2 days depending on the complexity of the project. Sia Auto Converter works very well, but when you have projects that have angles that are more or less than 90 degrees or a bit more complicated projects, you can have a bit of reworking after the process of alignment. So it depends on the complexity of the project, but I would say an optimization of time between 20 and 40% depending on the type of projects.
And Arno, would you recommend the Sia Auto Converter to other users? And why would you do it? And what would be your key arguments to buy the Sia Auto Converter?
I would definitely recommend the usage of Sia Auto Converter to any civil engineer, because they will win time on the modeling part, which is not the most interesting part of the job, which means they're going to have more time to do the structural analysis part, which is, from my point of view, the most interesting part of the job. So I would definitely recommend the usage. Also, it's very easy to get to know the software, so you don't need days and days to get to know all the functionalities, all the buttons. You just open it, you upload the model, and in a few clicks you have a usable model that you can rework a bit if needed. So it's only a win-win situation, and I can't imagine a reason not to use it.
Thank you very much, Arno, for this interview. And I'm really happy to see that you are so enthusiastic in the use of the Sia Auto Converter. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So we are now at the end of the interview. And if you have interest in the Sia Auto Converter, please visit our website. You can download a trial or you can contact our salespeople. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Arno, for the great testimonial. Now I'm here sitting together with Jannes to answer the questions that you have asked on the chat. Welcome, Jannes. Let me start with the first question from Simon Jobbins. Can you please show the output design reports? Yes, I can show them. I have a PC here with the new interface on it. So let me show how the reporting works. So if you go here to reports, you can open a report. And then it's opening the engineering report like it also was in the previous versions of SCIA Engineer. And I opened the project before I was sitting here, and it's not opening at the moment. Let me come back to this question and let Jannes answer the next one.
Okay.
I have no idea why it's not opening. It's just the engineering report.
Okay, then we will go on to the next question. This is a question from Igor. Igor is asking us if there is a database of simple examples for various functionalities. And I noticed in the chat that different customers would like this function, and we're glad that this is developed in our new version 21. So we will implement some tutorials. You can open the tutorial. A project will be opened in SCIA Engineer, and you can in fact follow step by step the different approaches to follow. So some text boxes will appear that guide you from step to step so that you can go through the whole design process of such a project. And for instance, we will have some steel, some concrete projects, and we will elaborate on that database further on, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I saw one from steel, I think, already, and it's really nice. I can only admit that it's really nice. A next question from Jürgen Hilfinger. Is there somewhere a list of functions or possibilities which still are not available at version 21 at this moment? And there also the answer is yes. And in fact, it's at exactly the same place at where it was before. So when you go to the project settings of your project, you can click there at a link, and it's named like differences in the old version, so the version 32-bit and 64-bit, and you can see the differences. So it's completely updated. So if you mean 32-bit and 64-bit, if you mean version 21, like I said before, all the main functionalities are in the new user interface, so there is no difference with the 64-bit version of the older versions. Yeah.
Okay. Another question from Joseph. Neil has raised comments about restrictions on input and results table. Could it be clarified again? Yeah, so indeed, this is the only functionality that's not yet supported by the first release of version 21, so table input and output, but it will of course come in the next patch release. So then you're good to go also with the table input and output.
Yeah, and let me also go back to my model and open the report now. So I just reopened SCIA Engineer, and I click over here on my reporting. You see that the engineering report opens like it always was. You can double click on the report, and then in fact you have exactly the same tool as you had before. I think it was just by the connecting of the screen that something went wrong, because before I had the engineering report on the second screen, and I only have one screen here.
That's mostly how it goes.
Yeah. But okay, you can see it here. The report is available just like it always was, and you can just add pictures to it, also like it was in the previous versions. And I think because the time is really running, it goes so fast today, so I think we are at our last question. And the last question is, when does the release come out? It was already asked before, I think, but let me answer that one again. It comes out very soon, and very soon means next Monday. So really, this Monday, the 10th of May, you have it available, just online, where you always find our downloads. And in the meanwhile, Hilde is back here. Welcome, Hilde.
Thank you, Nele.
Those were the last questions we could answer. Of course, all the other questions we will answer afterwards, and we will keep you updated about the answers.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, Nele and Jannes. Of course, it's Murphy's Law when you you do a live demo that something goes wrong, but that's quite okay. So sorry to say, just like Nele said, we're under time constraints, so we are going to answer the rest of the questions later. We'll make sure we'll follow up on that. This brings us to the end of our conference today. You have seen that despite these strange times, we keep in close contact with you, and we were able and we found inspiration for a completely new generation of software. I would like to remind you that SCIA Engineer 21 will be available from next Monday onwards on the 10th of May. And you can also start, to get started with V21, you do need to switch to cloud licensing. If you have not already done that, then please contact your account manager, and I'm sure he or she will have special conditions available for you. Also follow us on social media channels to keep up with the latest news, and be sure to take your time to participate in the webinars on the new interface as well as the steel and concrete innovations. Now I would like to thank all the speakers, my marketing colleagues who have done an excellent job in preparing for this conference, and our video producer and handyman, Bram. But above all, I want to thank you, our customers and our prospects, because you are the ones who made this virtual conference a huge success. I hope to see you back again next year, safe and sound. Take care, see you soon, and come, join us in the future on May 10th. Thank you.
Sia Engineer 21, super powered, super easy. Sia Engineer 21 has been redefined, reimagined, and revolutionized. It's a giant leap in structural engineering software design. Let's have a look at some of the extraordinary advances. Rather than having fixed menus crammed with hundreds of functions, the project takes center stage with a search facility and customizable toolbars, keeping the workspace clean and uncluttered, bringing huge efficiency gains. Mouse miles and clicks are reduced by 20%, saving you up to an hour every single day. You'll love working at full screen. You can concentrate on the model and see the detail with less zooming. You'll see your productivity soar. Sia Spotlight is a game-changing innovation that puts a smart search facility at the heart of the interface. Find tools and functions instantly and never get lost in the software, making it easier to use and learn. It's so much faster to use Sia Spotlight than to browse through menus. The structural engineering workflow is often not a linear one. Our Smart Process Toolbar allows you to have 2 workflow toolbars open at any one time and move seamlessly between the two. For example, results plus code checks, or loading plus geometry. It's ideal for an iterative process. The interface can be easily customized to suit the way you work as you go. You can drag and drop functions on and off the toolbar and assign single-letter shortcuts for favorite commands, giving your productivity an even greater boost. Sia Engineer 21 allows for easy, direct selection of entities based on multiple criteria. It's a great time-saving feature. For example, to select beams and edit all the associated hinges, you can now easily do that and more. Getting started with Sia Engineer 21 has never been easier. You'll quickly find your way around. With the new intuitive interface, smart toolbars, Sia Spotlight and built-in guides, you'll learn it in 75% less time. Welcome to the future. Sia Engineer 21. Super powered, super easy.